Hello! Hey guys! This video is for people considering dreadlocks. Are you considering dreadlocks? Your mom, your dad, your son, your daughter, your aunt, your uncle? Anyone considering dreadlocks? In this video I'm going to go over all the things that you should know so you are best prepared. You know, if you're on the fence, if you can't decide whether dreadlocks are going to be for you or not, I'm going to go all the things that you should know before starting dreadlocks. It's your pre-dreadlocks information video. I want to make sure everyone knows what they're getting into before they get into it. Let us begin. The first thing that you should know is that there's no such thing as instant dreadlocks unless you go for synthetics or extensions. To get your own hair to become mature, tough, rope-like dreadlocks takes a long time. Ballpark, you're looking at about 12 months. For some people it's going to take longer. It depends how long your hair is, the hair type that you have, and the method that you choose to start the dreadlocks with. So you should bear this in mind when you're deciding whether you want to start dreadlocks or not. You should be aware that you're not going to get them, overnight. In this time period between your dreadlocks being started and becoming mature dreadlocks, they're going to be very messy. So I will often tell people that dreadlocks are hard work. Now this doesn't mean that dreadlocks are hard work physically. You don't have to sit and palm roll them all day, all night. The process does itself. Hair will lock itself, hair will dread itself. It just requires that maturation time, the 12 months or so. The hard work is mainly mental, because dreadlocks look very messy when they're young. They will look wild, they will just look like matted rat's nest hair, really. Lots of companies will try and sell you products and tools to keep the dreads neater and tidier, but really these are just very short-term measures that don't actually increase the speed that the dreadlocks will lock up. They don't make the dreadlocks any more matured. Most of the products like the waxes and gels, they're the most common ones that you'll see targeted towards people with young dreads. They will merely stick the hairs together, hold the chunks of dread together and actually slow down the process. Hairs that can't move can't knot. What you have to understand is hair becoming dreadlocks is a process. When you choose your starting method, the most common starting methods being backcomb or twist and rip. Natural neglect is slightly different, but with backcomb and twist and rip, the only thing you're doing with that is taking the hair, backcombing and twist and ripping it, and that's going to make it into a knotty lump of hair. That is not the dreadlock. There's a misconception there. That is just the lump of hair in its section held together. Over the following months, that will tighten up and tighten up and tighten up and mature and become the rope-like dread that you picture in your head when you decide you want dreadlocks, really. So people will often worry when their backcombed or twist and ripped dread starts to get loose and messy and think, oh no, my dreadlock is coming undone. What is actually happening there is it's loosening and then you have to wait and wait until it starts to tighten up and tighten up. In the meantime, companies will come along and say, hey, you can use this gel or you can use this wax and it will keep it neater and tidier. This is going to stick the hair together, and hairs that can't move can't knot. If you put hairs in a box where they're not moving, they're not going to knot. Things have to move, they have to be in motion for them to start to knot together. So dreadlocks are going to be a long and trying process. People are going to be asking you about your hair, saying it looks messy, and you're just going to have to sort of stick it out while they mature. It's part of the process, really, and there's not much you can do about it apart from wear a hat. Because as I've said, most things that do make them look neater in the short term are going to slow down the locking process in the long term. Time that you spend trying to make them look neater in the short term, if you'd have just left them alone, they would have matured faster and you would get to your sort of goal dreadlock look faster, and once they've matured you don't have to do anything to them. So they're messy at the start, they're trying, and it takes a long time. You also don't have a lot of control over how they're going to look. I mean, in the short term you're not going to have much control because they're going to be wild and messy. You're going to get loops, lumps and bumps as they tighten up. But depending on your hair type and hair thickness, you're not going to be able to have much control over how the overall dreadlocks are going to look. If you have thin hair, unfortunately, you're not going to have enough hair to make thick dreadlocks. If you have thick hair, you're not going to be able to have just a few thin dreads. The only control you're really going to have is if you go with backcomb or twist and rip, you're going to be able to control where the dreads are going to be because you can choose where you section your hair. If you're going with the natural, neglect or freeform method, they're all different names for the same thing, you're going to have no control and the dreadlocks are going to form wherever they want. Dreadlocks also take a long time to wash and dry. I don't know if you could tell, I don't think most people would guess that. Dreadlocks definitely can be washed and dried. Don't buy into the myth. The common myth is that you don't wash or dry dreadlocks, that dreadlocks are formed from dirty hair. That's definitely not the case. In fact, clean hair will lock up faster than dirty hair. Dirty hair, dirty, greasy hair, those hairs will just slip past each other when they're greasy and oily. What you want is good, clean, non-conditioned hair. But it takes a lot longer to wash and dry. They're going to soak up water like a sponge, like a towel, and you're going to have to soak it in and squeeze it out. Then it's going to take a long time to dry, like it takes a long time for a towel to dry or a sponge to dry. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to judge you for your hair. In the early stage, I mentioned that lots of people are going to say that your dreads look messy, that you should touch them up, that you should buy a wax or a gel for them, that you should get them redone. Most people don't understand that it's a process that takes time, that they are not created overnight, that they have to have time for them to shrink up and tighten. So you're going to have to deal with people commenting, looking, staring. Unfortunately, the only thing I can really recommend there is to buy a dreadlock hat and hide them for a while. Eventually you get a bit thicker skinned to it and ignore it, but it's quite daunting when you're new to the whole dreadlock thing, and it's something to be aware of. If you like to sort of sink into the background, dreadlocks are going to make it a little bit difficult to do that, especially when they're young. Something else that you should take note of, dreadlocks shrink. I've been mentioning that as dreadlocks get older they shrink up, and that's because they actually do get shorter. If you start dreadlocks, let's say you start with 10 inches worth of loose hair, I'm not exactly sure how long 10 inches is, but the dreadlocks are going to be much shorter than 10 inches, and that's because the hair in a dreadlock does not go straight from the scalp downwards, it zigzags in and out and in and out. As your dreadlocks get older and tighter, they shrink up because they tighten, the knots get tighter, everything gets closer together. So you may start off with chest length loose hair. I in fact started off with chest length loose hair when my dreads were young and new. Before I started my dreads it was down to my chest. The dreadlocks I got out, my freshly backcombed dreads, they were like down to here. Much shorter than half the length of the original hair. So you got to bear in mind that if you want long dreads you're either going to have to start off with really long normal hair, or you're going to have to wait a long time for them to grow. Over the first year you will find that they're shrinking faster than they're growing. Some people worry and think that dreads don't grow at all, but it's just they're shrinking faster than they're growing. Once they're matured, they'll start growing at a constant rate. Only the original length is going to shrink up. The new length, the stuff that grows from your scalp, that's going to grow at a constant rate. It's not going to shrink up. You're also going to have to bear in mind that you're going to need a certain length of hair before you're even going to be able to start the dreads. I recommend having about 6 inches. If you have less than 6 inches worth of hair, you're not going to be able to get very many knots in with your back comb or your twist and rip, and they're just going to wash straight out. So to conclude this first part, it's a slow process, it's a long process. Young dreads are going to be really messy, people are going to comment on them being really messy. It's going to take a long time to wash and dry them. You're going to have very little control over them, and there's really not a lot you can do about it at all. It may seem like I'm trying to scare you out of dreadlocks, it may seem like I'm trying to put them down. What I'm really trying to do is gauge your sort of commitment to it. If what I've said has scared you and made you reconsider, I think you should spend a longer period of time deciding whether they're right for you or not. Do some more research, do some more reading. Because you don't want to start dreadlocks and then find all this stuff out and then be depressed or sad and have to deal with it then. What often happens is people that aren't prepared, they're the people that then will not look after their dreadlocks properly, they won't realize what they have to put in to get out. They won't want to wait the time that's really required, so they'll be the people who are buying lots of products and tools and getting them redone and redone. And when you're buying these products and tools and getting them redone, it's going to slow down the overall process, and so it's just a cycle. The people who understand the process, who've been patient from the start, who've waited it out, their dreadlocks will mature, and those people will eventually tend to be happier with their dreads. When my dreads were young, I was one of the people that didn't understand the process. I tried out all the little tools, the little tricks, the products, and then understand that the hair has to do it by itself. And so what happens then is you get upset about your dreads, you wonder why they don't look like how you thought they'd look like. And a lot of people then give up. And they'll be the people that then put down dreads and go, I had dreads, they didn't work, they never knotted up, they were expensive, had to keep buying products, had to keep going back to the salon. And if you do keep going back to the salon and having them tweak the roots, the only thing you're going to achieve is those dreads aren't going to mature at the root. They need to have a certain amount of slack, they need to be left alone for a certain amount of time, and then magic, it locks by itself as it grows out. Dreads always just require that initial patience. Does everything by itself, you just have to keep it washed, you have to keep it dry. On the topic of washing, I mentioned earlier that it takes a lot longer to wash them. So let's say it takes 3 times longer to wash dreads than it does normal hair. Now that might be a serious turn off for some, but what we have to remember is you don't have to wash them as often as normal hair, so it might take 3 times longer to wash them, but you only have to wash them a third as often. It balances out over the long run. If you want to know more about how often dreadlocks need to be washed, or if you want to know more about how to actually wash dreadlocks, you'll find that in the information section underneath this video. Links to videos on those 2 topics. You'll also find links to other things mentioned in this video, dreadlock sectioning and the different dreadlock starting methods. So once you've kept them washed and dried, that's really all you have to do. They lock themselves up at the root, they lock themselves up over here, over there, the loose hair will turn into new dreadlocks. There really is not a lot for you as the dreadlock wearer to do with them. You go straight from sleeping to get up. Hair is good to go. There's nothing you need to do to your hair once you get out of bed in the morning. There's no brushing, there's no conditioning. Dreadlocks also aren't an expensive hairstyle to have, as long as you haven't got into the mindset that you have to keep going back to the salon and have the roots tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. You might find that the shampoo is a little bit more expensive. You'll need a residue-free shampoo, you can't just use regular off-the-shelf, otherwise you'll start to get residue building up in your hair. Find more information on that in my residue video, also linked down here. So you might have to outlay a bit more cash to pay for your shampoo at the start, but you'll find that the shampoo lasts a lot longer. In my case anyway, you shampoo the roots and the scalp, that's where you get the oil coming out of your head, and then let everything else rinse through. You don't shampoo the body of the dread, so even though I have a lot of hair, I don't have to apply the shampoo here. I use the same amount on my scalp, regardless of the dreadlock length. And you save money over the long run because you don't have to buy conditioners for your hair, hairbrushes, I don't know how much you spend on hairbrushes, but you know. And you don't have to keep going back to the hairdressers and have it trimmed and trimmed and trimmed and trimmed. And I'll set your mind at ease with some of the common dreadlock myths. I mean, I've already gone over that they can be washed and dried. I mean, it's ridiculous that people believe that. Who would seriously have dreadlocks if you couldn't wash them? I wouldn't, it would be disgusting. I would not want dirty hair. Lead me on to the myth that dreadlocks smell. I mean, I would not have dreadlocks if they smelled bad. I just would not want to carry that around with me. It wouldn't be fun at all. Dreadlocks are as clean and as smelly as you make them. I mean, the same as with normal hair or a hat or a sock. I mean, you wash stuff, you keep it clean. It doesn't smell if it's clean. What other myths are there going around? Oh, the myth that dreadlocks attract bugs. Another one that, you know, would I seriously keep dreadlocks? Would I have had dreadlocks as long as I've had them if they attracted bugs? I don't know if I give off that impression, but I would not, you know, be okay with bugs living on me. That would be, no. There's nothing in a dreadlock to attract bugs. It's like rope. There's nothing in there. Bugs don't eat anything in here. It's just hair. The only bugs you're gonna get are the same bugs that would go on normal people's hair, and it's obviously more difficult to remove lice from dreadlocks, but not impossible. The way people talk about dreadlocks attracting bugs, you'd think that everyone has had them. I've not met anyone personally that's had bugs in their dreadlocks. I've never had any bugs in my dreadlocks. Oh, and the myth that dreadlocks are like a gateway drug, that is, you know, completely also untrue. If you're gonna go off stereotypes that anyone with dreadlocks is homeless or a drug addict, or it's ridiculous. Unfortunately, people out there are going to continue to believe those myths, and you may find that you have a tougher time in the outside world with the people that don't understand it and believe these myths. I personally see that as a pro rather than a con. People that are going to judge other people on how their hair looks, I mean, I can use that as a quick way to gauge whether people believe in stereotypes. You know, put a lot of their judgment into believing stereotypes. If someone's going to judge me on how I care for my hair, or, you know, lack of care apparently for my hair, then I don't really want to be associated with those people. On the other hand, you'll find that a lot of people do want to be associated with you because dreadlocks are attractive to other people. I mean, I like dreadlocks, I think they're cool, I would go and talk to other people with dreadlocks, but plenty of other people have come to talk to me because I have dreadlocks. I mean, the big pro for dreadlocks is they're dreadlocks. I mean, obviously if you're watching this video, you have some sort of attraction to dreadlocks, regardless of your reason. There are many reasons for having dreadlocks. I don't personally believe that any one reason is superior to any other. Everyone has their own reason for having dreadlocks. And hopefully I've not scared you away. I mean, if you've lasted this long through the video, I mean, if you got past the first part and haven't been scared away, you've watched through. Hopefully the pros that I've come up with at the end of this video have kept the faith for you. If you're still ready, you're ready to go, then you will find more information in my Preparing for Dreadlocks section that we find on lazydreads.com. If you have any further questions, comments, queries, anything that you'd like me to clear up regarding dreadlocks, anything that you feel that I've not covered in this video, leave it in the comment section below and I will get back to you. And I hope to see you again soon. I hope I was helpful. Bye!